Hey there, I'm Tim.
And I'm Luisa.
And we're two movie lovers here to show our appreciation to those people in the credits that make a film extraordinary.
That's right. This is a podcast centered around young upcoming talent whose tremendous dedication allowed them to shine in this crazy town.
This is Hollywood Rising. Okay, good morning, Luisa. How are you?
Good morning, Tim. I'm feeling great and super excited about our next guest.
Wow, you look really good in this lighting. I'm clearly not a lighting guy, as you can tell.
Well, thank you. That's why you have to get yourself a ring light, you know? Always have to be prepared.
Oh, good thing this is radio then. So today we're going to be talking to a film composer. Now, Luisa, do you know what film composing is? That's not a trick question.
I actually think I have an idea, Tim. It's when music is commissioned to someone for a specific project and it's crafted in a way that it enhances the storytelling. I've heard people call it film scoring or score.
I don't even know what a film composer does. Today, our guest, Navid Hejazi, a very talented film composer, will be talking about scores and music. He has very diverse skills. The pieces that I've listened to just recently, it's just a wide range of tone and emotion behind them. So I'm pretty psyched to talk to Navid today. Navid, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you, Tim, and nice to meet you, Luisa. Forgot to say.
Nice to meet you too, Navid. Welcome to our podcast.
You know, your stuff is really good. I was listening to some stuff the other night in the car. I had The Body Tree on, the score for
Right.
The Body Tree, a film you worked on. And there was this track called, somebody's name was in it. It was like Billy Becomes the Devil or something.
Yeah.
Or something. It was a guy's name, and it was truly shocking. I had to pull over. I was so shocked at the music. It was so jarring to me. I had to just collect myself on the side of the road. It was crazy. Good stuff, though.
Thanks, man. I think it's called Eric. Eric Becomes the Devil.
Eric, that sounds right. Eric Becomes the
Yeah.
Devil or something. It was just whatever. It's still with me. So
Yeah, I enjoyed a lot, so much writing that. And the music by itself could sound kind of simple, but I think it works with picture.
how did you get interested in music?
Well, my family are musicians. My grandfather was a violin player, my dad is a violin player, my mom is a piano player, and my brother is a guitar player. So since I was 5, I've been playing violin. And I had really great teachers because my dad knew them from when he was a student. So I was really into it. And I always liked classical music, but when I started watching movies when I was a kid, I fell in love with film scores.
Oh, yeah. You were kind of born into it. You kind of had no choices with that family background.
Yeah, no choices.
Before we even jump in, I want to ask you, in your own words, what would you define as film scoring or a score?
Music made just for a project. Could be a movie, could be a video game, short film, commercial. So the goal is to have original music that is new for that project. That's basically what is a film score.
So, do you think that your talent is something you got at birth, or was it something that you really needed to work on, or what?
Oh, I had to work so much, so much. It's true that I was very sensitive to music from the beginning. I used to play Tchaikovsky's violin concerto and just cry because I was very, very moved by it. Or Beethoven's symphony. So music had a really strong effect on me, but I had to work a lot. When I was 5, 6, 7, I was an advanced student and they used to put me in front of big crowds to play violin concertos. So at the beginning I was kind of advanced, but then I had to work so much for it. Even if I was talented, it was just a lot of work. I think at the beginning you could see a difference. When you start, you are, 5, 10, and you start and you see kids that come from music families or they have more support, they advance earlier. But then the others catch up because they have to work hard and they really like it. So when I was in college, I got my degree in violin here in Madrid, and a lot of the students didn't come from from music family, right? But they were really good because they really liked it.
Yeah, I would think getting started young, even younger than that, in your formative years, like 3, 5, 7, you would have an advantage as far as getting your skills up to par. Do you have any favorite genres?
I guess obviously my favorite is film music. I know there are a lot of composers that love some other like world ethnic folk music. I was always into film music. So when I first started listening to music, yeah, I listened to Bach, Beethoven, and Tchaikovsky. But then I started listening to film music, and that's what I liked. And when I was a teenager, my friends were listening to pop music. I was listening to John Williams.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
John Williams. I'm going to tell you, when I was 10, I saw the soundtrack for Empire Strikes Back in the store, and I told my mom, I said, I want that, and I thought it was like the narrated story of Empire, and I got it home and it was just the music. I was like, what is this shit? I'm like, this is not right. And then I listened to it and I wore that album out. I feel like for a movie to be just remotely good, if you have good cinematography and good music, it transcends. I mean, music it'll just steer your mind into a place that you didn't think it could go. So I credit you guys for really setting up the tone of the film and allowing us to see through different eyes. I mean, it's quite a power you guys have.
I think music is powerful. We're just putting things in the right place.
You just brought up John Williams. I've never seen John Williams pick up an instrument. I'm sure he's probably a talented guy and a very nice fellow, but do you play a lot of your own instruments in your scores?
Yes, actually I do. My main instrument is violin, and I also play viola, which is a lower register violin. And I play piano. I love piano. I'm not too good at it. My technique is not too good, but I have been playing since I was 15. Every day I play, obviously, the MIDI keyboard. But on most of my scores, they asked me to record violin, which is great.
So you have a team of people behind you, but you also do some of the play some of the instruments yourself.
Right. Well, the process is you sequence most of it. If there is budget, honestly, is when you can record orchestra. So you have to figure out what you need. You might need solo instruments. You might hire a guitar player, a singer, and a percussionist. And then if there is budget, that's great, because everything that you write for strings, for example, you can record it live. Let's say 15 live strings.
Do you have like a go-to group that you hire, or do you is it like based on who's available, or?
I guess you always like working with your friends, and you need to know they are reliable. But if you can hire this guy that worked with you on your last score, and you have fun, you will do that for sure.
So when you're approaching a project and you need to get ideas, do you usually start improvising on an instrument and just vibing, or do you go straight up to the computer and start sequencing some of those ideas?
Well, first you try to figure out the theme or the suite, which is made of different themes, right? So I like going to the piano and play around, because on the piano you have a lot of notes that you can play at the same time. On the violin it's harder. Violin is mainly a melodic instrument. So I like to play around with ideas on the piano and then think of how am I going to orchestrate that. So I don't think I spend too much time on other instruments. I go pretty early to my sequence and start thinking of what am I gonna use.
Oh, that's interesting. So you figure out like notations, you figure out different themes or notes on the piano, and then move on to whatever instrument you think it calls for.
Right, because at the end, let's say, okay, my instrument is violin, and I'm trying to come up with a theme, But what if the theme has to be played by a synthesizer? It's not going to sound the same. So it's better if you have that synthesizer from the beginning and you play around with it.
So, what comes first for you, the melody, the rhythm, or the harmony? I know that people like to start in different places.
I think it's important to start with melody because that's what is catchy and what is going to be the identity of the score. Let's say there's a score that needs a lot of percussion. Okay, obviously you're not going to start with a melody. But what I learned with time, because I think I started like almost everybody, just playing chords and adding a melody to those chords. With time, you learn that don't do that. Start with a melody and develop the melody, and then the chords will add to that.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Like to me, melody is the backbone and everything else complements the melody. So I guess that was the answer, but I've seen people work backwards sometimes. So I was just wondering.
You've mentioned a few different instruments that you work with pretty regularly that we're all familiar with, the piano or violin. But I also know this degree of the way your instruments sound, and I know Nima as well, Nima Fakrara, that you've worked with before. That it sounds like some of the instruments are. Forgive me. It sounds like they're homemade. They're very unique, is what I mean to say. Is that accurate?
Yes, it's like they are processed instruments. So at the studio, I work with Nima a lot. At the studio, we have a lot of instruments that he just builds those instruments, or we buy something and we transfer them into something else.
That kind of blew my mind. That I've actually been to his studio, and the sounds he comes up with and the organic feel that you get out of some of those instruments are things I've never heard before.
Right, and I think nowadays that's really important because you want to come up with new sounds, new tones, and movies are more international now. There are more kind of movies, so you need to come up with different things. But it's not just something that you change on the instrument. Maybe you record that and then you change it with the computer. So you combine those two things to get something new.
What's the process when you score a movie? Like, are you involved in the beginning or just in the post-production, or does it depend on the project?
Mostly on the post-production, almost at the end of the post-production. You can work with directors that they even give you the screenplay. So before they start shooting, you already read the story, you already create themes. I worked with a director called Armando Ravelo in Spain, and I have done like 10 projects with him. And he likes giving me the screenplay before he starts shooting the movie. And he always asks to give him ideas. So I write a suite, and even if he likes those ideas, maybe he's gonna use, let's say, write 10 themes. He's gonna use 2 of them. But it inspires him to even play that music when they are shooting the movie.
Oh, wow.
And that is very special because maybe they are on post-production and they are using one of the themes I wrote at the beginning for the suite, but then he realizes that's not what he wants and he changes that. He asked me to write something else, but because we went through this from the beginning, everything's more mature, so we come up with something better. But that's a very special relationship. Most of the time, we get the movie when it's almost finished. That's why we have 2 or 3 weeks to score 60 minutes of music.
The process of playing music while you're filming is something they used to do during the silent movie era. They used to play to get emotions and a tone across to the actors, and there's no sound, so they could just act to the music. And I always thought that must be a really effective way to kind of convey a feeling to your actors. I think I love hearing that gets done sometimes still.
Yeah, it's very special. Like in the last one, we just finished one movie. I just finished the score for this one, and they are finishing the sound mix. So he told me, he was shooting in August, I think. He was saying, while we are rehearsing, we are playing your theme, and like the actors are like getting very emotional with it. So that's making an impact on their work too, on their acting, right? So if your music is inspiring them, for sure it's gonna work later because it's part of their work too.
I love that. I think that's so good to hear that that can be used as a tool in production too.
Right.
What's your biggest growth experience or failure, and what did you learn from it?
Do you mean in life in general or music, my career?
Luisa, you meant like during on when he's on the job, right?
Honestly, it could be both. I think the personal experiences are intimately tied to whatever career path you're taking. So it could be something that marked in a way that it seemed negative at the beginning, but then it turned into something really good for you. We could take it from there if there was any experience in your life that you can share with us.
Well, I always thought this was gonna be really hard to do, and I didn't take anything for granted. So I never felt any failures. And I think failure is necessary and it's great. But I think my growth came more from experiences where people tried to make my life hard, even intentionally. Like I was in the conservatory in Spain. Spain is not like the US. The US is amazing. Spain is like if they don't like you, they don't want you to succeed. It sounds bad, but it's like
We have
that.
some of that here in the U.S. too.
Wow. Yeah, then when I went to Boston, everything was like paradise. Yeah. So yeah, in Madrid, I had a bad experience where I told the teachers 3 months before I was gonna graduate, after 4 long years, in the biggest conservatory in Spain. I told them, 3 months before you graduate, they ask you, what do you want to do next? Do you want to go to a master's degree? Do you want to do an orchestra? And I said, I want to make music for movies. So here the mentality is very classical, very traditional, and they kicked me out.
Wow.
Like that. They kicked me out.
Whoa.
I was 3 months to be done with that. So finally, I was lucky I found a teacher that supported me and said, no, you're doing great. You are going to graduate. So that made me really strong. And that made me realize, okay, I did something amazing, which is graduate in violin here. And I'm going to do what I really love. So that gave me a lot of strength.
That's inspiring. That's a good story.
It is, Tim. That's exactly what I was trying to get from Navid.
Okay.
A little bit about his personal life mixed with his career path and how he overcame that situation. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone that wants to pursue a similar career in music?
Make sure you really love this. You really want to do this. Because, I mean, it also depends on the personality. For me, it takes the whole time, and it's the only thing I want. I know people that also want to have a family or have more hobbies. That's great. I can't do it. So this is gonna take a long time, a lot of time, and never get discouraged because there are a lot of people that are really good.
I noticed that in your library of work that you can find online, it looks like stuff that's not even commissioned. Like you just made pieces because you love to work. Your trailer music, I would assume that's just stuff you're doing for fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of reasons. Sometimes because I work for a publisher in Miami, they publish my music. So some of that music, I give it to them and they just sell it. But for me, the main reason is to learn. So also, I love writing music. I think I write music every day since the last 12 years, something like that. So let's say I hear a score on this movie and I'm like, sounds great. Now we have a problem. I don't know how to do that. So what I do is, okay, I need to know how to do this. So I'm gonna learn, and at the same time, I'm gonna try to sell this. So it's learning, it's having fun, and it's also giving it some use.
Oh, that's a great recipe for, yeah, if you're going to do something for the rest of your life, I think all that applies.
Right, because a lot of times I get a movie and I'm asked to write in a style that I wrote when I did these, let's call it demos. So then I'm like, okay, this is not new for me. So I'm already ready for this.
What is a common myth about your profession that you'd like to debunk or?
People think that because you're a musician, you drink a lot and you take drugs. And I've never, ever in my life drunk or did drugs. So,
Wow, you've never had a drink?
no, never.
Luisa drinks a lot, and she thinks that
What
you
What
need
are
to
you
do that to
talking
get.
about?
No, I'm just kidding.
Drinks?
I'm just kidding. She does a lot of drugs, but
This is not about me. It's
doesn't
about
drink.
Navid.
I'm just
No, my
joking.
friends make fun of me. Like Nima makes fun of me and he says, you know, Navid does a lot of drugs. You have to be careful with him. And people actually believe that. I'm like, stop saying that. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't have sugar. Like, I'm very careful with that.
Matt, you're like a dream date. I love it. So I like this question. If you could be us on this side of the mic, what would you have asked yourself that we didn't ask you today?
Do you want to do something else apart from music, like in your spare time? Yeah, because for me that's important. Like I said, music is the most important thing for me, but also I want to do something good for the world. I believe in serving humanity, and I think you can't just live and then die and you haven't done anything for humanity. So the first thing is actually that. That doesn't mean that you have to help everyone else in the world. Maybe you can help one person, two people, 10, 100, but do something good for others that makes humanity progress a little bit. Because maybe your music is in service for that. I like playing, for example, I have experience playing in meditation groups. I just play violin. And that helps. You can do that with music, but also you are a human being, not just a musician. So I like getting involved in community service. And it's amazing because I have no idea about it. And there I have no experience and I'm just learning and doing something good. So to me, that's really, really important. Instead of just, I don't know, doing something for just myself after I'm working, I like getting involved in these things.
You really are the full package, Navid.
You are like, how are you not married yet? You're like the catch of the year. That was a great answer. I'm tearing up a little here. So
I mean, poor the girl that married me. He's weirdo.
can we hear a little bit, just like a few seconds worth of a score from you in different layers?
Yeah. So this is from a movie I just finished here in Spain. And it's a love story. It's a beautiful movie. It's amazing. It's gonna go to theaters in May. And it's really gonna be something because the story is beautiful. So in this part, so this is the story. The main character, they kill her husband in the civil war in Spain. So someone asks her, how did you guys meet? And she's trying to remember the story. It's a build-up, right? So it becomes more intense, more intense. And what I just played, it's just the live violins, which I play myself. It's just 3 violins. So that's the first thing I did. I came up with a theme. It's also a series of chords that once they loop, it makes sense. And it gives you the feeling that it restarts again and again. That's what the director wanted. So that's the live violins stem. Then I have another stem which is the orchestra, which is mainly, it's basically a lot of different strings, manipulated strings. So it's gonna be in the background. Sounds like this. And then the other stem I have is three instruments: a piano, electric bass or synth bass, and voice. He wanted to elevate the story, so he didn't ask for it, but I understood that we needed something higher, a higher register, so I'm using female voice for this. So
Oh, that was beautiful.
then should I play the full thing all together?
Yes, please. So beautiful and touching.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful.
Thanks.
I've been a huge fan of film scoring for a while, and listening to this and letting the music like wrap its hands around me feels so good. I felt so emotional. It's just this connection, this weird connection that I feel with film scoring because it's so descriptive.
Thank you.
And sometimes, I don't know about you, Tim, but sometimes I get transported to specific scenes of my life or stuff that happened or stuff that I want to happen. And it's just so amazing how it can color like the film of your life, basically, when you're listening to this type of music. I loved it, Navid. I can't wait to watch the movie and see how this music plays with the image. Super, super nice. Really, really good work.
Yeah, I agree. If you're able to pull that out, like Luisa just said, of that, and even connect up with it, I think connection with anything, whether it be music or characters in a film, if you're able to find that common ground, then you're in.
Right. There is a lot of work in this. This part is around minute 25 in the movie, so it's not. Usually you have this kind of emotional parts by the end, but this movie is different. It's at minute 25. By the end it's emotional, but because you know a lot of things that happen in the story, it's more sad, more dramatic. You actually cry, like the movie is beautiful. It's one of those like eternal love stories.
We're just hearing that minute-long piece over our crappy speakers, and if it's already making us us cry or our eyes water, it's going to be effective in the movie, I'm sure.
I hope so. It works.
Let's say you have a scene where a man is returning from war. He hasn't been home in 18 months, and he's walking up the sidewalk to see his wife, maybe meet his baby for the first time. How would you begin to approach that moment? Like if you saw it in a script.
Well, the first thing comes to my mind is that that's an emotional moment, but you have to think where is that place on the movie and what happened before, and what's the point of view, if it's regret, if it's happiness, if he's so out of it because of war that he doesn't know anymore who he is. Maybe it's the kid's point of view, he doesn't know who's his father. So it depends on the story. The interesting thing about film music is don't always do the same thing, don't be too obvious. So it depends on really what the director wants.
This was kind of an experimental question we had, and I thought it was an interesting one, at least to bring up. You certainly gave an answer that was much better than the question I asked.
I think it's a great one. It's true, because you would think, okay, this is very emotional, he's happy, but I mean, he comes from war. He has seen like horrific things. And you don't know what's happened with the wife and the kid. I mean, is she married?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess it depends on a lot of the backstory and a lot of, the actual details of the characters and what they've gone through so far.
How long does it take you to finish a full project from beginning to end? Let's say a movie. Let's talk about a movie. You already have everything you need to work and you can start today. How long would it take?
Let's say 1 month. But with revisions might be, I don't know, month and a half. I mean, if you have to do it in 3 weeks, it's not gonna be the same as if you have 2 months. Sometimes you have 2 months, but at the same time, you are doing two more movies. I don't know. I think a month and a half is enough.
What has been the maximum amount of projects that you have worked simultaneously on?
My record is 10.
Wow.
Yeah, with Nima. I think it was April 15 or 16.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was like 3 a.m. in the morning. I was at the studio. 4 guys. I didn't know what I was writing anymore. I was writing for Spain, for Nima, for Ramin.
No wonder why you don't have a girlfriend, Navid.
Yeah, you gotta be realistic. Yeah, when I meet a girl and we start like dating, I'm like, this is my life and it's not gonna change.
She's like, see you later.
Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
Well, this is certainly, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. I've known you for a number of years, and you've always been very sweet and just very forthcoming. And all your answers were very inspiring and just really heartfelt, like a lot of your pieces that you write. And you can find like all your stuff up on many platforms, I'm sure. And I'm sure there's more to come from you in the near future.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to hearing it. Is there anything you want to plug or talk about?
I just released an album for a soundtrack for a movie I finished a few months ago. It's called The Breakdown. And it's interesting. It's very traditional score, more orchestral, but I'm happy with it. And then this one is gonna be good. I think it's gonna be released in a couple of months. And then I did a movie in China that the score came up really good.
Well, again, your stuff it's easy for me to say, certainly because we're talking to you today right here, but your stuff is fantastic, man. People should go and listen to it if they haven't. Navid Hejazi.
Thank you, man.
It was great to talk to you, and thanks for certainly setting some time aside for us. We appreciate it.
Same here. My pleasure, really. Anytime.
All right, have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Hollywood Rising is produced by Tim Tucciarello and LNA.
Sound mixer, Mike Shu.
Music by Jonathan Byram. Special thanks to Kami Asgar, Richard Burnett, Sam Fan, and Brian Wessel.
This is a Sputnik Media production.
In association with Mr. 101 Productions.
He's Mr. 101.
Sputnik Media.